County Board of Legislators to order. Today is Monday, November 25th. If we can have Legislator Judy Myers lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the interest of the people of Westchester while we're in this chamber. Let us keep in mind that every decision that we make impacts upon the life, health, and safety of all our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum. Here. Minority Leader Mazzano. Here. Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Here. Mr. Gelfarb. Here. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Present.
Ms. Marcon. Ms. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Brickman. Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'd move the consent agenda with the following suggested revisions. Please sever items 7, 10 through 15.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Shimsky.
I concur.
Okay, we're on consent. You have pleasure with the severed items, Mr. Harcum?
Over, Mr. Chair.
The item's been overed. Mr. Harcum, minutes approval.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We move the minutes of the Tuesday, November 12th meeting that was held at 7 p.m.
Without objection, members, so ordered. Madam Clerk, public comment.
Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. Regina Riley, Ed Riley.
My name is Regina Riley. I'm from the 9th Legislative District, and I happen to be a member of the Feminists for Life. And that means that I really do care about women and about what happens to them. In the Women's Equality Day Amendment of New York State, the 10th amendment, 10th step of that, is extremely dangerous to pregnant women. Girls and women forced into an abortion don't have the right to choose to keep their baby or to be put her up for adoption. What about those girls? There's no right to choose there. The incestuous, pedophile, and statutory rapists are never discovered. Planned Parenthood and its affiliates are perfectly happy to take the man's money and his lies, even if the girl is battered and bruised. Planned Parenthood is one of the very few groups who are not included under the child abuse mandate law of New York State. So a girl can come in there battered and abused, and they don't have to report it. They don't have to report that the girl's been raped. If some guy comes in there and says, oh, I'm her father and I want her to have this abortion. You can look it up. If you don't believe me, please do. I hope you do. The other thing is, as the majority, I mean, all of the Democrats that I know of, at least publicly, believe in this legislation of the Women's Equality Amendment, I just want to point out that the legislator-elect Catherine Parker of the 7th District must have been handpicked by Planned Parenthood, Hudson Peconic, and Westchester Coalition for Legal Abortion. According to an online interview, Ms. Parker said she would fight for all 10 points of New York's Women's Equality Amendment, all 10, including that last one I mentioned to you. That means that she'll fight to let non-doctors do abortions for all 9 months gestation, including surgery. She will fight to have late-term fetal children born alive during abortions to be considered as products of abortion and therefore left to die, the way President Obama wanted when in the Illinois state legislature he voted for such. In fact, in this law, or prospective law in New York State, if born alive, the baby could be murdered just because he or she would be considered part of the abortion. In such case, Ms. Parker would fight to let the abortionist go free because the Women's Equality Amendment calls for decriminalization of all abortions, including those where the baby is born alive and then had his or her neck crushed, such as in Kermit Gosnell's practices, crushed the neck of the born alive to infants while semi-decapitating them with scissors, snipping them. So Ms. Parker would fight to let Kermit Gosnells of New York practice abortion without a doctor's license. And a parental notification would not be allowed if this passed. Those are just a few of the things in this Women's Equality Amendment in New York State that just did not pass by one vote. I really care about what happens to women and what would happen to women if this thing passed. God help us.
Ed Riley.
My name is Ed Riley. I'm from Croton on Hudson with United Pro-Life Committee in Gannett. I'd like to bring it to the attention of the people in the audience and the legislators present that for 35 times we have requested the abortion caucus in the Democratic Party to call Planned Parenthood to account the way they've delivered abortions, the way they've delivered RU46, the way they've butchered women in Westchester County. And let it be on the record, that's the Democratic Party in this county. Ms. Myers and her cohorts, Ms. Borgia, who worked at an abortion mill, and her cohorts, friends of Bramson, Mrs. Bramson worked at an abortion mill. They're friends that have covered up for Planned Parenthood. And the women and girls, like Leslie Pabon, and the adult women they have butchered, especially in the minority areas of these counties, where they butcher black women and Hispanic women, which is their specialty. I'd also like to bring your attention to the fact that when babies are killed, at whatever age they're killed, in this county and the adjoining counties, they never find a perpetrator. You notice that a baby boy who was 9 months, was delivered. His body was found down in Elmsford, New York, at a recycling facility, which some of you probably know well if you do metals. The origin of that baby was head was bashed in, probably someplace in Rockland County. This is one case where the county police, at least the Westchester County Police, are interested in solving this case. Rockland County has never solved cases like that before. We have a case on record where the baby was found in the trunk of a car dead. A trunk of a car. Isn't it pretty easy to trace down the car? Rockland County and the DA in Rockland County never solved that case. We had the instance of 2 bodies found in a sewer facility, 2 babies' bodies in a Westchester County sewer facility in Yonkers, New York. No one ever found what happened. We have a dead baby in Mount Kisco who we buried. We buried 3 of these children. Found in Mount Kisco. Never solved that problem, solved that case. 10 years prior to that, there was another child killed in Mount Kisco that we found a body in the sewer. Never solved that case. This is a pattern. It's very much like that case of Wyckoff, New Jersey, where 2 wealthy white kids went to Delaware, where the girl was attending Delaware, bashed the child's head in, threw him in a dumpster, The DA, oh, we're going to give this guy life, we're going to give this woman life in prison. 1 year in freaking jail. 1 year in jail. This is a problem in our county. It's a problem in the United States. The systematic killing of children by cutting their heads off, by sucking their brains out, by burning them to death, by killing twins and triplets, has so immobilized and so insensitized us that we are not shocked by this going on anymore, and hence we value children less and less.
Mr. Raleigh. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's go with the regular order of business.
Under standing committees, the first item, ID number 5017. From the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations is a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $50,000 in bonds of the county to finance design of capital project RB 160 Wilmot Road, Eastchester.
Ms. Myers.
Yes. Sorry. This is a bond act in the amount of $50,000 for the design in-house of repairs to the design for a project that would repair Wilmot Road, which is County Road 113 in Eastchester. And this came before both government operations as well as budget and appropriations, and I will turn this over to government operations.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this is a road in Eastchester. It's approximately 0.35 miles. The pavement condition index in 2010, so 3 years ago, was 58 and has continued to deteriorate. It does have an annual daily traffic count of over 14,000 cars, vehicles, so government operations felt this was a pretty important bond to move forward, so we would also like to recommend its passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote.
Mr. Harkam.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Borgia. Yes. Mr. Burrows. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz. Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Breckman. Mr. Testa. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 16-0.
Madam Clerk, we're going to go to item number 3. So item 2 is subject of a public hearing that we have not had at this point in time. Mr. Harkam,
Yeah, point of order, Mr. Chair. Do we need to formally table that item?
we can table it if that would be your pleasure.
Yeah, just to keep the...
Moved and seconded by Mr. Harkam that we table that item, as we have not had the public hearing as of yet. Item number 3.
Item 5949 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $830.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Do we need a long roll call vote for that tabling, sir?
Without objection, members?
Thank
So
you, sir.
ordered.
Approved 16-0. Item 5949 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $830,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital projects RB 117, Mill Road, Eastchester, and New Rochelle.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, again, this is a bond act in the amount of $830,000, which includes $83,000 that was previously authorized. This staff design is 90% finished now, so they have asked for the construction and construction management money to be bonded. I will turn this over to government operations.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this is for the construction. It's approximately 0.79 miles of Mill Road from White Plains Road to the Eastchester New Rochelle border. It's going to be doing the milling, resurfacing, pavement, usual thing. The average daily traffic count is 11,646. And the pavement index was 72 in 2010, although it has continued to deteriorate. It's also significant byway. So Government Operations did approve this bond and suggest that the entire board do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item. This item initially came to us several years ago with the water. I think Mr. Pinto, your predecessor, Ms. Marcotte, was working on it for this particular item. It was after the road was done that there was some kind of flooding that was right on a corner, if I remember correctly, and this particular bond act has started from that. It was a secondary bond act. Members, without objection, so ordered.
Approved 16-0. Item 6457 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the county attorney and the Commissioner of Finance to compromise the liability of the county to pay workers' compensation benefits to a former county employee in lieu of future payments.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a compromising the liability of Westchester County and paying a lump sum settlement that was the result of this is a former police officer who had an accident in 2006, and what this does is it waives the offset fees, and he does have continuing medical expenses despite the fact that he retired in 2008. So this is actually a reduced lump sum payment. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 16-0. Item 6460 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, an act approving certain financial terms and conditions of employment requiring legislative approval by law and a collective bargaining agreement for those employees of the county represented by the Westchester County Department of Public Safety, PBA, Inc., for a 6-year period commencing on January 1, 2009 and ending on December 31, 2014.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, as noted, this is we are requesting the approval of an agreement between the county and the Westchester County Department of Public Safety, PBA, for the Superior Officers Unit. The cost for 2013 that is built into this is for $738,000, which was included in the 2013 budget. This agreement goes through 2014. It covers 23 members, and it will come back up for renegotiation again at the end of 2014. I will turn this over to Government Operations for their input.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, we also had a chance to review the terms of this agreement. This is a very short-term agreement, but we feel that it brings us back on track with our negotiations. Both our Labor Council and the Superior Officers Unit seemed content with the terms of this agreement. It does allow for contributions to the health care benefits and including into retirement. So Government Operations felt that this was acceptable to both sides, and so we did feel it merited our approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item? Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 16-0. Item 6461 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, an act approving certain financial terms and conditions of employment requiring legislative approval by law in a collective bargaining agreement for those county employees represented by the District Attorney's Investigators, PBA, for a period commencing on January 1, 2009 and ending on December 31, 2015.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, as noted, this is an approval of an agreement between the county and the District Attorney's Investigators, PBA, and it is identical, actually, to the one that we just approved for the Superior Officers Unit. It covers 31 members, and this actually goes back to a 7-year package that covers from 2009 through 2015. And that's really the one difference, is that it goes all the way through 2015. But it also does include health insurance contributions and covers the period between 2009 and 2015. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objections, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered. Mr. Harker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I move that we suspend the regular order of business for the purpose of conducting one public.
Thank you, Mr. Harker. Madam Clerk.
Notice of tonight's hearing was published in the Journal News. I have proof of publication, which is available for inspection in my office. From the Committees on Legislation and Government Operations, a public hearing on a local law amending the laws of Westchester County by adding a new chapter relating to the establishment of regulations to prevent the displacement of building service workers. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. Each speaker shall have 3 minutes. Barry McGooey, Alejandro Sanchez, Patrick Welsh, John Santos, Douglas DeCardia. And the first speaker is Barry McGooey.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairperson Jenkins and honorable members of the board. My name is Barry McGoey. I'm the president of Yonkers Firefighters, Local 628 of the International Association of Firefighters. The IAFF represents over 300,000 firefighters and paramedics throughout the United States, over 1,000 of which work within the County of Westchester. Today I'm here to support the Displaced Service Workers Protection Bill as a firefighter, a union official, and a resident of Westchester County. I, along with everyone in this room, understand the value of job security. We know how important it is to pay the bills on time and to put food on the table. We believe that though we're not guaranteed employment, if we work hard at our jobs, we will deserve a fair chance of keeping it. The Displaced Service Worker Protection Bill will affirm this by protecting vulnerable workers from being arbitrarily dismissed from their jobs for no fault of their own. I also support this legislation from a public safety perspective. I strongly believe it is important to retain experienced workers with knowledge of the buildings wherein they work. As a firefighter, I have come to know that in times of emergency, where it's critical for public safety, that it's the experienced workers who know the building, who know the occupants, who know whether there's somebody who is physically disabled, mentally disabled within that occupancy that may need assistance. It's critical that we have knowledgeable people working in buildings. And it's important to note that this legislation doesn't affect small mom and pop operations. It's for big establishments, big commercial activities, big residential facilities that house hundreds, if not thousands of people. And it's critically important that we keep them in mind, the public safety. So there are some costs involved for some of the businesses associated here, but the public safety should overcome any costs regarding that. By passing the Displaced Worker Protection Bill, we will be providing some job security to hardworking men and women who have knowledge, training, and experience needed to help keep our county safe. And thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak.
Alejandro Sanchez.
Good evening. My name is Alejandro Sanchez. Last week, Trevor Bolden made contact with me over a phone call and briefly explained that my testimony will be of help. I was caught up by surprise. After 5 years of being let go from my job at 455 and 409 North Broadway in Yonkers, this is the first time that my story and that of my coworkers is heard. Just as Trevor was brief, I'd like to be brief tonight too. In June of 2008, the address before mentioned passed or were sold to a landlord named Ghazi Brothers Immediately, the entire staff of 4 was terminated without regard or plea. We knew of the impending change of landlord for about 2 months. What we did not know was that we would lose our jobs. On the day of the takeover, I pleaded to Mr. Anthony Gasabora to make me a job offer. He said, and I quote, "I have family to employ, and blood is heavier than water." I asked, "Is your family trained to do the work?" I didn't get an answer. Instead, I was asked to vacate the room that used to serve me as an office. My tools, books, and personal records and items of 18 years as superintendent had to be disposed of or relocated. For the first 3 weeks, I provided the new staff with all kinds of information and help on all the daily activities: garbage collections, water main, water riser for different areas, sewage, storm drains, electrical boxes, breakers, roof, and on and on. I provided information and help. At the same time, I was busy sending my resume all over the place and going to jobs interview. I was desperate, mentally suffering, and going through a lot of anxiety. The strain was such that I lost my appetite and over 30 pounds with it. My wife, the George brothers, and my family helped me immensely. I'm glad I did not seek medical help. I'll be put on medication. In late July, Steve from Local 32BJ referred me to, amongst other places, to 13 David Lane in Yonkers to cover the vacation of one of the 2 porters. While there, I learned that the superintendent position was vacant, but an out-of-state person was selected by the board to take the position. The selected person did not make it. I submitted my resume and quickly selected to be the interim superintendent. In early September, I was allowed to move in. I was blessed.
Mr. Sanchez?
I was fortunate. Yes.
Your 3 minutes is up, but you certainly...
Just 1 second more, please. And because of the training and experience I had, I was able to demonstrate to the board my abilities and potential. I cannot, with words, tell you what I went through. I can only hope and pray that I or my brothers or sister goes through the 3 months of hell I went through. Please, brothers and sisters, educate yourself as much as you can. Make use of the 32BJ's training school. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Patrick Welch.
Good evening, Chairman, legislators, and citizens. My name is Patrick Welch. I'm chair of the Westchester Putnam Working Families Party. Basically, this bill is simple. It asks that a new contractor hire incumbent employees for a 60-day transition period after starting a new contract. This is already standard practice in the facilities management industry. Contractors save on unnecessary recruitment and training costs and benefit from the knowledge of an experienced workforce. Clients and tenants receive a continuation of reliable service and a smooth transition to a new contract. The workers benefit from the added job security. This is a clear win-win for the Westchester County, which is why it has the support from members of both Republican and Democratic parties and the Working Families Party. Contractors who fire incumbent workers when starting a new contract are a minority of bad actors who are often seeking to cut costs by hiring inexperienced workers at lower pay, as we just heard. Under the Displaced Service Worker Protection Bill, contractors will still be able to negotiate wages and benefits rates. This bill also does not guarantee employment to the incumbent staff. Employers still have the right to terminate workers for cause or if they are downsizing their workforce. It is important to understand that this legislation is not only about unionized workers, it offers protection to all workers. Job security is especially important to the workers covered under this bill. Many of them are supporting their family on a low income and depend on steady employment to be able to plan for the future, put money aside for an emergency, and provide for their family. The bad practices this bill protects against not only affects Westchester families, but they also have widespread negative social and economic effects on the local economy, including costs to the employer and clients. By strengthening responsible and common sense business practices, this bill will help avoid this. For these reasons, the Working Families Party strongly encourages the passage of the Displaced Service Protection Act this legislation session. Thank you.
John Santos.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins and members of the Board of Legislators. My name is John Santos, and I'm a Vice President and the Hudson Valley Area Director for SEIU 32BJ. We represent over 120,000 members in 8 states and Washington, D.C. Our members are janitors, residential service workers, security officers, food service workers. In Westchester County, 32BJ represents over 4,300 members in Westchester County. We represent nearly 70% of all the building service workers in the county. I have a relationship with many of the contractors they work for and the owners of the buildings the members work in. All this is to say that I know the industry pretty well. Keeping steady work can be challenging for building service workers because contractor turnover occurs at a high rate in this competitive service contractor industry. Due to the slim financial margins, most service contractors cannot afford to retain a standing workforce between contracts. Instead, they have to recruit workers once they have one in a contract. And the norm is to retain the incumbent workers in order to ensure a smooth transition and to continue services for clients, as well to avoid unnecessary costs associated with recruiting, hiring, and training a new workforce. This good practice also provides a measure of job security for workers and allows them to build experience in their field. However, some bad actors seek short-term profits by terminating all of the experienced workers and hiring a set of entirely new workers at lower wages. This practice is devastating for the terminated workers. Some are fired with less than 24-hour notice. Hardworking men and women are already struggling to make ends meet, and their families will only suffer more without the income. This hardship doesn't only affect displaced workers and their family, it also diminishes the quality of service provided to the clients and places an undue strain on public resources and the local economy. That's why we spent the last year drafting and redrafting this critical piece of legislation into a version that is bipartisan, supported by the Board of Legislators. The Displaced Workers Protection legislation would help protect against this by ensuring that vulnerable low-wage workers are not arbitrarily dismissed when the contractors they work for change. This legislation would also apply to workers who work directly for the building owners. Several other areas have passed legislation similar to this bill you're considering today. Okay. Over the past year, I've had the pleasure of working with legislators from both sides of the aisle to make sure that the legislation is something that benefits workers and building owners. I've been pleased with the open discussion we've had and believe that we can't wait any longer to pass this bill. 32BJ members and all the building service workers of Westchester County are counting on us. We don't want to have them wait any longer for this important protection. Please support Displaced Worker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Douglas Decadia.
Hello, my name is Douglas DeCandy, and I am a farmer and an employee of the Food Bank for Westchester. The Food Bank for Westchester is a non-for-profit located here in Westchester County that works to prevent the effects of hunger throughout the county. There are approximately 1 million residents of Westchester County, of which 200,000 are currently experiencing hunger and receiving services from our organization. That means that 1 in every 5 people in this county are without enough food. Hunger is a preventable disease. It is something that we can stop and cure, and poverty is one very important issue that leads to hunger. And so tonight, this legislature has the ability to prevent countless other people from entering into the effects of poverty, including the effect of hunger. When a company changes owners, the Displaced Worker Protection Bill protects workers from being replaced without warning, and it gives them a chance of security in the volatile economy, and is one modest way of making their lives more stable and keeping them from going hungry. These are men and women who do work that we have most likely benefited from, and they are among the lowest paid in this county. The workers and their families live in financial and thus nutritional insecurity. They do not have the resources to consistently eat healthy food, let alone the access to that healthy food. Those who rely on the food bank, and the food bank relies heavily on volunteers, and we are already experiencing limited services as we are today as the food bank. And I ask to those of you in this room that are making the decision tonight to think about the children of these men and women, as you most likely are parents of children or children of parents. And I also ask if you have ever experienced yourselves what it is to be hungry or to be cold. And that yesterday was 20 degrees. And I hope that you don't want other people to feel the cold and the hunger if you have felt it yourself. And I urge you to pass the Displaced Worker Protection Bill. Thank you.
Jeremy Bressler.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins, members of the Board of Legislators. I'm here to express my support for the passage of the Displaced Service Worker Protection legislation in Westchester County. I'm the Vice President of Operations for the Connecticut and Westchester region for Guardian Service Industries. Guardian Service Industries is a family-owned and operated company providing direct oversight and delivery of all daily facility operations and maintenance, including janitorial, window cleaning, engineering operations, metal and marble restoration, lighting maintenance, security, and pest control services. The company was started by my great-grandfather, Samuel Bressler, in 1918. We currently provide services to over 1,000 clients across Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Florida, and employ 1,800-plus workers within the tri-state area in Florida. We are one of the largest cleaning contractors in Westchester, and we employ over 75 workers, and we're growing. Based on our extensive experience, I know that this legislation will help to improve standards for workers and ensure stability and continuity of services for our clients who are commercial property owners. For example, my company also operates in New York City, where similar legislation has been in place for nearly 10 years. Displaced Service Worker Protection has been very successful in New York City, helping responsible contractors like us remain competitive while providing fair wages and benefits to our employees. The legislation has not caused disruption to the industry, and on the contrary, it has ensured smooth transition and continuity of services to our clients. Our industry is very competitive. Service contracts are generally written with very short termination notice requirements. This places janitors and other service employees in a very uncertain position in the event of change of contractors. They can be terminated with as little as 24 hours notice, leaving no time to save money or prepare for meeting obligations without income. As a responsible contractor committed to providing quality services, our preference is to keep the employees who know their buildings and the tenants. This makes sense from a security perspective and helps us save on recruitment, hiring, and training. Displaced service worker protection legislation would enable us to compete on the quality of our services without hurting the employees. At the same time, displaced service worker protection laws typically continue to provide us with the flexibility to make the personnel decisions that we need to make to stay competitive. We continue to determine the levels of staffing we need to provide quality services and retain the ability to terminate employees for cause. Displaced service worker protection legislation is a win-win proposition. It enables responsible contractors to remain competitive and win contracts. It ensures quality services to commercial building owners and their tenants, and it provides a measure of stability and security for the men and women who provide these services. For these reasons, I encourage you to pass displaced service worker protection in Westchester County. Thank you.
Florence McHugh.
Good evening, Chairman Jenkins and members of the Board of Legislators. I speak this evening in my capacity as Secretary-Treasurer of the Westchester Putnam Central Labor Body. And we represent 80 affiliated union locals and over 100,000 working men and women in Westchester and Putnam counties. I'm here to express our strong support for this bill, as I have in the past. We have been very impressed with the simplicity and the even-handedness of this bill, and the fact that legislators from both sides of the aisle are showing their support is very important to us. There's something in this bill for both the employer and the employee. It is fundamentally fair. The new employer will gain an experienced workforce without having to hire and train new employees, and the employees will be assured of at least that 60-day retention period, even if they might not receive the exact same level of compensation. The county has an interest in maintaining a stable workforce, and the employer has an interest in employing workers who are skilled in their assigned jobs. The employees, of course, have an interest in maintaining some level of job security. Now, on a personal note, I live in a condominium development, and it's served by 32 BJ employees. I feel very secure knowing that the same people are going to be on the job every day. My family also lives in the condo development and other units. We have 3 units there. And we all know that the workers are a vital part of our community, and our community is really very happy that they're there. The workers take pride in their work, and they know that we respect them and respect their abilities. I would be very uneasy if the worker changeover were frequent, and I know others in the development would feel that way too. We trust these men and women with the safety of our families, and we take comfort in knowing that they are trained, familiar with the property, and also could best help us in case of an emergency. There are approximately 5,300 building service workers here in Westchester County, and they work hard to keep our homes and offices and condos clean as well as secure. They deserve to know that their jobs are secure too. For these and many other reasons, we at the Westchester Putnam Central Labor Body strongly support the passage of this Displaced Service Worker Protection Act, and we ask that it be passed with a veto-proof majority. It's time to stand up and vote for the protections of the men and women who work, live, and vote in this county. This bill has the overwhelming support of our labor body, and we urge every legislator to allow the bill to come forward for a vote today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that we remove this item from the table. Oh, well, first let me move to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Resume our regular course of business, and then at that point, I would move that we would, I move to remove this item from the table for its normal discussion.
It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Mazzano. Without objection, members. We're on item number 2, Madam Clerk.
Item 5453 from the Committees on Legislation and Government Operations, a proposed local law establishing regulations to prevent the displacement of building service workers.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we just saw something that we don't see all that often, and that is a public hearing that immediately precedes the board's consideration of a proposed local law. Let me tell you about the first benefit that I'd like to declare for everyone to be aware of. The speakers were so articulate, and the comments were so broad in scope and covered so many different aspects of this, that it makes for short presentations by the legislators who have the responsibility tonight to introduce and to comment on this. Let me just say this. I think that pictures are important. Different people tonight mentioned different things. The law actually has a list here. It talks about service employees, janitors, security officers, door persons, building cleaners, porters, handy persons, superintendent, elevator operator, window cleaner, stationary firefighter, or building engineer. We may know of these employees because they happen to be present in the buildings that we live in, or perhaps we have an opportunity to go into residential and commercial buildings where we see these individuals. Certainly, I know here in Westchester, we've all seen workers proudly supporting their 32BJ hats, where you have 32 BJ union members employed. I think that's a wonderful thing because they're very proud of their union. But the point is that we know that they're there working, and they're an important part of the workforce. Because of the great explanations given tonight at the public hearing, I can go directly to the fact that the proposed local law builds in some job security. Not a whole lot, but a balanced amount of job security. It balances the interests of hardworking employees with perhaps new owners to buildings who are employers, or contractors providing services within the buildings who are employers. And there are transitions that the committee has been made aware of, initially by SEIU 32BJ representatives. I'll cite Vice President John Santos as the point person in making this legislature aware of these transitions when buildings change hands, when contractors change, contractors that are providing services within the buildings. And in that transition, workers can get caught up. And it can be something as harsh as an immediate dismissal, where I thought I had a job for a reasonable period of time. I'm working hard at my job. There seems to be an operation here that is able to sustain itself, either residential or commercial. So the employee believes that there's some permanency, some stability in their situation. But some of these transitions have shown us that the employee can be very quickly out on the street. And so what was presented to us in the context of other jurisdictions in the country, and New York City as well, having ventured into the arena and having themselves attempted to try to do something to help bring about some degree of job security for employees, we asked ourselves the same question. In Westchester, what was it that we could do that wasn't improper interference on the part of government, that could possibly bring together the interests of the union, speaking for its workers, the interests of the building, realty owners, the interests of service contractors, the interests of legislators, Democrats and Republicans, who are all kind of scratching our heads saying, this sounds like an opportunity to do something positive. What can we do that's reasonable? What can we do that is proper and appropriate and doesn't go too far? And so, as Vice President Santos mentioned, this did not happen quickly. This happened in two committees of this County Board, Legislation and Government Operations, over a long, long period of time, involving a lot of negotiation, a lot of discussion. I'd like to commend all the legislators, in particular our leaders, Legislator Harcum, Legislator Mazzano, and their leadership in the two caucuses, to make sure that this issue was given full and deep treatment by the caucuses, so that those members of the caucus who happen to sit on government operations and legislation could make the best decision possible. Pages aren't numbered, but I know at the end of, midway through the document, before you go too far, is a list of all the signatures, and you should look at that. That's a full page of people who represent a consensus. And I think that we're all in agreement that it was good that the union, that labor brought this to us. It is no surprise to me that representatives, a very substantial number of people in our workforce, the firefighters of Yonkers representing IAFF, which goes obviously beyond Yonkers. It goes into any municipality that has firefighter members of that union. The Westchester Putnam Building Central Labor Body, they're substantial. They're substantial numbers. And even something that was very interesting caught me by surprise. The gentleman that showed up and started to advocate for, organizations that deal with the hungry, and mentioned specifically the food bank. And I wasn't exactly sure whether or not he was going to be on point, or was advocating for yet another good services that's out there for people. And the way he reminded us that as a worker of the food bank, he knows of the situation that confronts many people, especially those who find out that just like that, they've lost their job. And now what do they do? And who is there to help with some essentials like food for the worker and for the spouse and for the kids? So anyway, I know that other members may want to comment on this, and well, they should. But I think that certainly legislation and government operations, only because of the dedication of their members, have brought to the board tonight a very good piece of legislation that hopefully will be in place once again to deliver some measured degree of job security to hardworking service workers.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Government Operations Committee has been working on this, mulling this over for a long time. As Legislator Ryan alluded to, we did have several different versions of this piece of legislation that came before us at various times over the past 2 years. The piece of legislation that we have before us represents a significant amount of compromise and discussion about various possible consequences of this law, and I think that over the course of the several months that we did work on it, we were able to come to reasonable solutions for everyone's concerns. So I think this does represent not only a good piece of legislation with respect to the good that it can do for our economy, for our workers, for our service industry, for the people who the service workers provide services for, but also it's a good example of how legislatively things can come together when there's goodwill brought to the table. So Government Operations did pass this version out of our committee, and we would like to recommend that the full board take it up and pass it.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item. Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ryan was actually right when he said that the passion and the concern coming from the speakers, it made for short presentations for the rest of us legislators. So this legislation is not only the right thing to support, just the fact that no one came here to speak against it, that right there speaks volumes. When I was still working in the private sector, I witnessed how hundreds and hundreds of people lost their jobs because the property they were working for many years just passed in the hands of new management or new ownership. many of those people who were more than just co-workers were friends and people that I consider to be family. And seeing the stress that they went through, the difficulties that they had to face, a lot of difficult choices that they had to make for their families and their children. And no one should have to go through that. In these uncertain times, you know, if there's anything else that people are hoping for, praying for, aside from good health and the safety of their loved ones, is job security. And everyone deserves to have job security. That is one thing that no one should have to go to bed every night thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow when I lose my job, just because they have a new boss. I am very proud to support this legislation, and I hope that everybody here is on board. So I'm very proud, and you know, you guys have me as an advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Other members? All right. Just want to congratulate all the members that have been working so hard on this. I looked it up really quickly. It started introducing the board in July of 2012. So it's a dedication of hard work of every member around the committee table, both on legislation, government operations, and certainly the advocates around. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote, please.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfarb.
Aye.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams. Yes. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 16-1. Takes us to item number 7, ID number 6478 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the Westchester County Commissioner of Finance to pay mortgage tax receipts to cities, towns, and villages for the period April 1, 2013 through September 30th, 2013, in an amount totaling $19,282,405.71.
Ms. Myers.
This is extremely good news for this county. As the clerk just noted, this is a total, in terms of the mortgage tax that we've received during the period from April 2013 through September 30th of over $19 million. That is up 45% versus a year ago, and for the same time period. And looking at the numbers June to June, a full year's worth, that's up 21%. So this is terrific. We are very eager to approve having this money come into the county, so I do hope this will gain unanimous support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote, please.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfarb. Yes. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan. Yes. Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams. Yes. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 17-0. Item 6479 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, an environmental resolution determining there will be no significant impact on the environment from the demolition of the Battery Place and Craft Lane bridges spanning the Metro-North Railroad tracks in the town of Cortland.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, with your permission, I'd like to take these next two items because they actually refer to the same, it's a resolution and an act dealing with a three-party agreement between Metro-North Commuter Railroad, Town of Cortland, and Westchester County. And this has to do with the demolition of two different bridges. And even though Westchester County's portion is quite small, just 5% of the work actually, we are preparing the demonstration drawings and documents, and this will go into construction sometime next summer. So the total amount that we are looking for here is our 5% share share of this cost, which would be $49,000, as well as revenue that we would receive in the amount of $165,000 from Metro North and from the town of Cortland. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members, Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are two bridges that connect a neighborhood via the, on the property that connect from the VA Montrose Hospital property to a neighborhood in the town of Cortland in my district. The bridges have been in disrepair for many, many, many years, and the town of Cortland has been working with Metro North and as well as the VA to come up with a suitable arrangement for the demolition of the bridges. The bridges have been closed for many years, so the residents already have to drive along the VA hospital property. The county has agreed to act basically as the project managers for this deconstruction. There are some additional legal complications that the town of Cortland is taking care of that the county is not involved in, but the town is pretty anxious to see this go forward, as it's been something that's been outstanding on their agenda for a long time, and it does represent a health and safety risk for residents to have the bridges in such a state of disrepair in the still standing, basically. So we're very pleased that this arrangement, both the IMA and the environmental resolution, is before this board now. We do ask for its passage. As I said, the project has been ongoing for a long time, even though the county's only been involved for about the past probably 18 months to 2 years. But we do think that this is an appropriate role for the regional government to play as the project manager, but as Legislator Myers said, our portion of the cost is quite minimal. And we are reimbursed for some of the costs that are associated with the actual demolition. So government operations did have a chance to review this. Actually, we've been talking about it in government operations on a continuous basis for the past 6 or 7 months at the request of the town of Cortland. And I'm hoping to see this passage tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members, we are on discussion on item number 8, which is 6479, and item 96480. Members on these items, Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fact that we are netting as a county $116,000 in revenue on this relatively minor project because our civil engineering staff is doing the project for all 3 parties in-house demonstrates the financial value of our civil engineering staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. All right, Madam Clerk. Without objection, members, on item number 8, which is 6479, we'll take the previous long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6480 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, an act authorizing the county to enter into a 3-party agreement with Metro North and the town of Cortland in connection with the demolition of 2 railroad bridges within the town.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, as discussed. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6487 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the county attorney to settle a claim brought against the county by the American Petroleum Company, Inc. for services rendered relating to the remediation of oil contamination and tank removal at the Grasslands Reservation.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a request to settle this claim by the American Petroleum Equipment and Construction Company in the amount of $272,681.29. And these were costs associated with the removal, cleanup, and remediation of soil that had been contaminated with a diesel spill. This was discussed with the with our county attorney's office, and Budget and Appropriations moved it forward to the full board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6421 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Community Services, an act authorizing the county to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Rockland County in order to provide mandated preventive respite care and services to eligible children at risk of foster care placement and their families.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is an agreement, an intermunicipal agreement with the county, Rockland County, I was going to say the county of Rockland, to allow them to place children in Westchester County facilities, specifically at 35 Hammond House Road. They have the ability to place 14 youth ages 12 to 17. It is mandated that they be placed, and it makes more sense for them to place them with Westchester, in Westchester County's facility, since they closed their own facility, and they do pay the county $180 per day. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just wanted to make a comment that this is a very economical thing for the County of Westchester to do, as well as a humanitarian issue. Through this intermediate agreement, the county will be able to receive approximately $180 per day for the housing of these young people. And it is anticipated that over the course of a year, Westchester County could offset as much as $50,000 of our costs with Children's Village. So it provides respite housing for Rockland County youngsters, as well as providing revenue for the County of Westchester. So moved, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6509 from the Committee on Legislation, a resolution in support of New York State Assembly Bill A7896-A, Senate Bill S5500B, which will allow an aggregation of consumers to purchase energy in Westchester County.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the members know, the Legislation Committee convened at an early hour this morning to take up a request that this legislature consider a resolution, and if we approve it, send it to Albany, that would support two bills that have been filed in the state legislature, in the Assembly and Senate, by two members of our local delegation, that would allow, as the clerk pointed out, a community energy aggregation. The aggregation of consumers of energy, specifically electric and gas. And so the committee had a brief discussion. We all refreshed our memory by taking a look at a letter that a number of us had signed in support of the filing of legislation in Albany and the eventual approval of a law. We looked at that and understood that this was the next step that we were being asked to go through. So it was a process to expedite its delivery here to the board tonight. I would like at this point, I think it would be very appropriate, the legislator who brought this to our attention initially was the resolution sponsor, our colleague Peter Harcum. And so I would like to turn the floor over to Legislator Harcum for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and special thanks to Legislator Ryan for turning this around so quickly. Essentially, community choice aggregation process is simply defined as energy buying co-ops, in essence. It's allowing the power of the marketplace to drive down energy prices, to allow competition to drive down energy prices, both for electric and gas. And it's estimated that it could save Westchester residents tens of millions of dollars if we're allowed to do that here in Westchester. This was brought to us by both NWEAC and SWEAC, who represent pretty much every town in Westchester County, every city in Westchester County, all political persuasions. They are the leading edge in energy conservation and energy efficiency. And this has been at the top of their list for quite some time. Legislator Ryan said we had signed a letter, many of us on both sides of the aisle, but to help with their push to get this law passed, they've asked for a resolution. I received a note late today from Herb Orengill that they've obtained 12 signed resolutions from municipalities, which is saying something because that all happened during the election season. So they're anticipating getting many, many more in support of this. But this would be a long awaited way for Westchester residents to save money, money they put back in their pockets, money they buy food, money that goes back into Westchester's economy. There are a lot of things that can be done with that. Saving our residents money is a good thing. So we want to thank everybody for their support to date. This is a good thing. It has broad bipartisan support in the community, and I urge its passage this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. For those that do not know what those acronyms mean, can you just tell the folks that NWEAC and SWEAC?
Northern Westchester Energy Action Consortium and Southern Westchester Energy Action Consortium.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Members on this item. Without objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6483 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations. Resolution designating the Westchester County Office of Tourism as the tourist promotion agency for the county for the period from January 1, 2014 through December 31st, 2014.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, the passage of this act actually allows our Westchester County Office of Tourism to receive approximately $60,000 in matching grant funds from New York State as part of the I Love New York campaign. And this is gratefully received. It does represent a slight increase over a year ago, although the check hasn't arrived yet. But we do urge the board's adoption of this. Thank you very much.
Ms. Myers, members may notice that we have two different items. We have a resolution and an act that name the same item. So we are on discussion for both items together.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item. For item 6483, unless there's an objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6484, an act designating the Westchester County Office of Tourism as the tourist promotion agency for the county for the period January 1, 2014 through December 31, 2014.
Ms. Myers.
So moved.
As previously discussed and so moved, unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6531 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, adopting certain rules for the conduct of the public hearing concerning the proposed 2014 county budget.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is something that we do every year, and this is a resolution that allows us to conduct a public hearing, and which actually, this establishes the rules for the public hearing. So moved.
Members on this item. Without objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6532 from the Committee on Budget Appropriations, resolution setting the public hearing on the proposed 2014 Westchester County budget for Wednesday, December 4th, 2013 at 7 p.m. in the chambers of the Board of Legislators, and designating which papers will publish the notice of public hearing.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, it should be noted with this resolution that, especially for all of the legislators who will be at the public hearing, as well as everyone coming to speak with us, that this will be held here in our chambers. It will not be at the county center. So what this does, this is a resolution that sets this for December 4th, Wednesday night, December 4th, beginning at 7:00 p.m. right here. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 6533 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, suspending Rules 9 and 11 of the Rules of Westchester County Board of Legislators with regard to the 2014 proposed Westchester County budget.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is the final resolution that is necessary for our passage of what will become the 2014 county budget. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members on this item? Unless there's objections, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0.
Madam Clerk, motions, resolutions, and calls of the district. Members. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Chairman, thank you. I'd like to add Carl Bosch, from Chappaqua, and Dr. Lou Resnick, who is a Chappaqua resident, a dentist, an author, and a Holocaust survivor, also from Chappaqua, to the memorial resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplowitz. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to invite my colleagues to join me on the resolution for Dr. Wegman. Dr. Wegman is Croton Mayor Leo Wegman's father.
All legislators? Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Ms. Shimsky.
To inquire of Legislator Maizano, Bill Mazer, that's the amazing? I'd love...
I would just say, I don't know if everyone knows, but Bill Mazer is probably one of the most famous sportscasters in the New York metropolitan area for the last 30 or 40 years. And I'm not quite sure where he lived. I saw one article that said Scarsdale and one article that said White Plains, and another one I thought said Ormonk. So I'm not quite sure where he lived before he moved to Danbury. So it sounds like one for all legislators.
Okay.
And Mr. Maizano, as someone stated, I think we did this at the last meeting. Right? But that's okay. We can certainly recognize a person like Bill Mays, the amazing, again. So.
Also, by the way, I had a WVOX radio show in New Rochelle.
Thank you, Mr. Maizano. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you please add my name to Legislator Kaplowitz on Dr. Bosch?
Absolutely. Thank you. Other members? If we all could please rise, if we can observe a moment of silence for all of those mentioned in the memorial resolutions. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we adjourn and that we'll reconvene on December 9th at 10 a.m.
Mr. Maizano. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Maizano. Yes. Mr. Williams. Yes. Mr. Chairman.
Yes. On the motion of Mr. Harcum, the board stands adjourned.